Okay, so hi all, and we are starting our second part of OPTIMA workshop organized by Université Côte. And this time we are going to, let's say, listen to a presentation again about a peer community by Thomas Guillemaud. And then we will discuss the open peer review workflows, which will be implemented into the open peer review platform developed by our project team. So perhaps Aurelia can also add something and we can continue, please.
I think you say the most important information, so I will just give the floor to Thomas, and thank you for participating to the session today.
Okay, so thank you very much. So I'm going to try to share my screen up. So compared to the talk I already made in front of some of you the last time, I'm not going to re-explain again the context and the problems that we see with publication. I'm just going to the point, so to what we are doing at Peer Community In. So just maybe some sentences just to explain the problem that we see. We think that the current publication system is too expensive. It is not open enough. It is too slow. It is not transparent. Okay, so we see a lot of problems in the current publication system. So we want to find solution for that. And the solution that we think we may find use preprints. So this is why I'm going to give you some insights about preprints. So first of all, we think that the preprints, they have good qualities because they are really low cost. They cost less than $10 per article. They are free for the readers and for the authors. They are available immediately. They are an archive for the future. They are a proof of anteriority. They are searchable and findable. So they share many characteristics with normal articles published in normal journals. The main difference is that there is no formal evaluation, okay? And this may be a problem because if you have no evaluation, no peer review, you can find almost anything, everything in preprint servers. And we have seen that with the COVID-19 crisis, where many preprints of bad quality were deposited in preprint server and were used by the media, by journalists, by teachers, etc. And this may be a big problem in science. Okay, so we think that we need preprint evaluation, and this is what we try to do with Peer Community In. So Peer Community In is a non-profit and non-commercial organization that tries to build communities of researchers who handle the evaluation through peer review and who recommend preprints in their scientific field. So the articles are deposited in bioRxiv, in arXiv, in Zenodo, in HAL, etc. And the communities are peer community in ecology, peer community in genomics, evolutionary biology, etc., depending on the field. So how does it work? So it's pretty similar to the evaluation in a journal. You are an author here. You are happy with the articles you just wrote, okay, and you want to publish it. So instead of publishing it in a journal, what you do is that you deposit the preprint in a preprint server, and at the same time you deposit the data, the scripts, and the codes in an open archive dedicated to this, and with DOI. This is important. And at the same time, what you do is you also make the submissions of your preprint into one of the PCI. So for instance, Peer Community in Genomics. So you go to the website, you submit the DOI of the article of the preprint and the DOI of the data, scripts, and code. And when you do that, you also suggest a list of 5 to 10 associate editors of the PCI. And these associate editors, we call them PCI recommenders. Okay, so they are people doing the same job as associate editors. So you suggest a list of them, and if one of them is interested by handling the evaluation of your article, then your article enters the evaluation process. If no recommenders from your shortlist and no recommenders from the entire PCI genomics are interested by your article, then your article goes out of the system and is not considered for evaluation. So if one of the PCI recommender is interested, then the peer review process can start. So it's like in a journal. So the PCI recommender invites peer reviewers and get the peer reviews from the peer reviewers. And from these peer reviews, the PCI recommender takes a decision, an editorial decision that can be to reject your article. It can be to ask you to make some modification on your article, and it can be to accept your article. So maybe after one round of peer review or 2 rounds of peer reviews, it depends on the situation, the PCI recommender takes a final decision to reject your article or to accept it. And if there is an acceptance of your article, then the authors are required to post a final version of their preprint on the preprint server with a clear format and a clear display showing that it has been recommended and peer reviewed by the PCI. And at the same time here, the recommender, so the associate editor, they write a recommendation text in which they explain the reason why they decided to accept the article. So it's a text in which they expose the quality of the article and the advantage of this article. So we publish this in open access on the PCI website, together with all the evaluation process, the peer reviews, the editorial decisions, the answers of the authors, etc. So at this step, we end up with a final preprint with a format, okay, corresponding to the PCI. And we have this recommendation text with all the evaluation procedures that is published on the PCI website. So this is in open access with open peer review because they are published, with the open data, open code, open scripts, etc. So it's very open science. And we consider at this step that your article is a final article. It has been validated by the scientific community. It is findable. It is citable. You can use it as a normal reference. You can put it in your resume, in your curriculum vitae. So it's a final piece of work. And if you do that, we think that we can save a lot of money for the research agencies, okay, because such a system costs approximately 150 euros per paper instead of, let's say, 3,000 euros in average per paper published in the normal system. The results are accessible to all and immediately because it is based on preprints. There is a transparency of data, methods, scripts, etc., and transparency of the evaluations. The editorial of policy of a journal that can be quite vague is replaced by a very clear and argued recommendation text written by the recommender. So it's simpler, it's more direct. There is a strong limitation of the conflict of interest because we at PCI, we prohibit the financial conflict of interest of the authors. And we try to limit at the minimum the conflict of interest of the reviewers and recommenders. And it is, of course, a mean to break the publisher's business because it's part of a free open access system, so a diamond open access system. But this is not so nice, okay? This system is not working so well, and we face problems and obstacles. The main problems are the following. The preprint servers, the search engines, they do not indicate clearly that the preprints are recommended, and this is a problem. The PCI recommended preprints are not well indexed in some big databases. For instance, they are not indicated in the Web of Science, in Medline, in PubMed Central, etc. So we have a big problem of lack of visibility, and this is a problem for the scientists themselves. Okay. The second piece of problem is that the PCI system is not very known. It's not well known by many evaluation committees, okay, in universities, in research institutes, etc. And these committees, they can be quite conservative and prefer not to change their evaluation criteria and continue to use the quantitative metrics based on the publication of articles in journals. So many researchers, even those who use PCI, they still need to get real publications in journals. So this is why we try to find a solution to this. And this is a big difference with what I told you the last time. We try to find a way for the authors to publish their PCI recommended preprints. So we have a strategy in 3 points. So you can be happy with the preprint deposited in a preprint server, okay? But if you are not happy with this solution, you can just transfer your article into the peer community journal. So it is a brand new journal that will open very soon, in which there is a direct publication of your PCI recommended preprint, and it is free for the authors and the readers, so it is in Diamond Open Access. So this is the first option. The second option is that you try to submit your article in one of the PCI-friendly journals, and we have changed what we call a PCI-friendly journal, and I will explain you what it is exactly. Or you can simply, and it was true before, you can simply submit your article to one of the many journals that accept the submissions of preprints. So just a slide to explain you what is a PCI-friendly journal. So this changed very recently, okay? The last month or 2 months ago, we changed these categories. So it's important that I explain that. So we have 3 categories of PCI-friendly journals. The first category is a top-level category with a very strong commitment to PCI. They accept, these journals, they accept the PCI recommended preprint with no further reviews, okay? And we have 6 journals like that. For instance, this journal in ecology, which is Frontiers of Biogeography. So they do not make any further peer review. As soon as the article is in the scope of the journal, they may require some slight change, but they will publish your article. The second category of PCI-friendly journal is a category of journals that will give you a very fast response in less than 5 days, usually, to a pre-submission inquiry that you can do as authors. And the response that the editor-in-chief of this journal will give you is, or they accept without further reviews your article, or they will need further peer reviews, or they are not interested by your article. But you will know these 3 answers in less than 5 days. So this is very fast. There are many journals currently in this category, including some top journals in biology and ecology. And the third category of PCI-friendly journal is a low level of commitment. It is what were before the PCI-friendly journals. They were all in this third category, so this is why this changed. So this category is a group of journals that may use the evaluation of PCI if they think it is appropriate and adequate. So there are, for instance, there is eLife in this category. So it's a low-level commitment because they may or may not use the PCI evaluation depending on what they think about the evaluation. I also told you about the peer community journal. So the name is peer community journal. It's not peer community in journal. It's not PCI journal. It's peer community journal. It's quite important because there are confusion about that. It will be open in a very few days. It was supposed to open this week, but we are waiting for technical improvement of the website, etc. So it will be probably open next week, okay? It will accept as is all the articles that are recommended by one of the PCIs. It will be free for the readers because it is open access, and it will be free for the authors. So there are no article processing charges, and it is a Diamond Open Access journal. And we already have the commitment of 80 groups of authors of PCI recommended articles for a transfer of the article in this journal in the following weeks. So during the months of November and December, we are going to publish many, many articles, up to 80. And then it will continue as a normal journal. So the condition is to first go to PCI to get the evaluation of your preprint. And if your article is recommended, then you can go to the peer community journal, okay? So all the evaluation process is externalized to PCI. This is the important thing. So if I summarize these new strategies that we offer the authors to publish their article, If the authors are not satisfied by the decision of the PCI-friendly journals because the journal want to make an additional peer review process, or because the journal does not accept the article, and if they are not satisfied by the decision of the other journals, then the authors, they can go back to the beginning of the loop here and choose again. So they can choose peer community journal and their article will be published in peer community journal with no condition, or they can choose another PCI-friendly journal and try to submit to these journals, okay? And again, if they are not happy with the final decision, they can go back here and choose again one of the three options. So it can be very fast, and in less than 20 days, for instance, you can try 3 different PCI-friendly journals, okay, with the same evaluation procedure. This is the important point. You have a single evaluation procedure, but you can try many journals with the same single evaluation procedure. So it means that as an author, you can know within a few days if one or more PCI-friendly journals are interested by your article and if they will request or not further peer reviews. And you will get a 100% chance to publish rapidly your article in an indexed and free open journal because there is this possibility of publishing in peer community journal, okay? Okay, so now just a slide to explain where we are with PCI currently. We have 14 different PCIs with 13 thematic PCIs, so in genomics, ecology, etc. And 1 PCI, which is peer community in registered report, which is a generalist PCI working in every field of science, but evaluating only registered reports, which is a piece of article coming from pre-registrations. We can talk about that if you want afterwards. We have received a bit less than 500 articles, so the numbers are quite low because we are still in the process of development. We have recommended approximately 260 articles, and many of them are still in evaluation. We have many recommenders, because there are many people working as associate editors in each of the peer community, like 400 in peer community in ecology, for instance. We have many PCI-friendly journals, almost 90 journals are PCI-friendly. And we have many supporting organizations, including the Université Côte d'Azur. So this organization supports us both symbolically and financially. For instance, Université Côte d'Azur supports us financially, okay? And we need these supports because we are a non-profit and non-commercial organization. So we have no income. And we completely depend on public organizations of research and universities, etc. So the current PCIs that do exist currently are this one. So we started with peer community in evolutionary biology, then we went to ecology and paleontology. So it's mainly biological science until now, except PCI archaeology and PCI network science. That can be something else than biology, of course, and life science. And this year we opened a PCI registered report, PCI ecotoxicology, and PCI infections. We have some support from scientific societies. We have some support from many universities, including Université Côte d'Azur. I think that, yes, it is here. Okay, Université Côte d'Azur. And there are some foreign universities also. It's not only in French. Okay, we have some universities in Belgium here, University of Brussels here. We have a Swiss institute here, another Belgium here. We have 2 Max Planck from Germany here and here. And we also have libraries from outside France, for instance, the Royal Danish Library, which is the group of all the libraries of all the universities in Denmark, and the Library of Montreal and Colorado State University. We also had some funds from the government. We won a prize, and we are part of a project led by COAR, the Confederation of Open Access Repositories. And it's a project where we try to make interoperability between the open access repositories and with services like our service who publish peer reviews and recommendations. So it's a way for the readers of articles in the open access repository to know that there have been some peer reviews or some recommendations on some of the articles that are deposited in these archives. Here we are. So if you are interested, you can do something like that. So first of all, submit your articles. You can consider becoming a recommender, and you can register to the PCI website to become reviewer or just to be alerted when there are some new recommendations and new peer reviews. I think this is it. Yes, so I will stop and we can talk.
Okay, many thanks for this presentation. Actually, dear colleagues, or maybe you could moderate this. So if dear colleagues present here today, if you have any comments, questions, and I think you have, perhaps, would be really great to have them. All right, will you moderate this?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay. So I see that Tony raised his hand. So Tony.
Thanks. Thank you, Thomas. So the journal was never wasn't foreseen. Like the idea was just that the recommendation should be the thing, but it seems like the journal is a response to the fact that the recommendations don't show up, especially on like Google and or can't be indexed in a decent way. So it seems like the journal is kind of trying to fit into this old scheme, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So this is, you perfectly understand the point. We have a problem of indexation. It's mainly this indexing because many researchers, they do need to publish in the Q1 quartile of journal, blah, 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 which we perfectly understand, okay? We think it's a bad way of evaluating research, but it is like that currently, so we have no choice. And so we had to adapt both to try to motivate researchers to use PCI, and also because they really asked us to do so, so the researchers themselves. They said, we like PCI, we think it's a perfect system, etc., but we can't use, we cannot be satisfied only by a PCI recommended preprint. We have to publish something, which is ridiculous because we want to save money, we want to solve some problems, etc. So we think that what happens is that we are here, there is an adaptive valley, and we want to cross this valley. Okay, we want to arrive here. So how to reach this point? We think that to reach this point, we have to make some temporary solutions. And the temporary solutions are the PCI-friendly journals, and it is the peer community journal. So peer community journal is not our goal, okay? It's not the thing that we wanted at the beginning at all, but we think it's a solution to cross this adaptive valley. And what we hope really is that maybe in 10 years, it will be okay with a preprint recommended by a PCI. If the evaluation committee are satisfied with that, if we do not rely anymore on the impact factor, etc., which is quite complicated. And maybe the PCI, the peer community journal, will last for decades. Maybe we will continue to use it in 50 years. So it will be okay. It will be okay, even if it's not the initial goal.
I mean, I love the peer community and thing. I just find it so funny, like whenever we try to innovate, and people have been talking about like unbundling publishing, you know, for so long. And as soon as you try to innovate, that like the idea of doing the journal then becomes like this, oh, but we'll do this temporary step because that's what they want based on the current reward and recognition system. But then like the next thing maybe would be, well, maybe we need an impact factor. Maybe we need to be in Web of Science, and then maybe like by the end, the core business becomes just a journal. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean, and we are confronted to this problem. So for instance, for the point of impact factor, what we decided to do is to be neutral in toward the impact factor. So we will probably have impact factor, okay, because this is what the authors want, okay. They want a journal that is indexed and that is in the Q1, etc., etc. So it means that they need the impact factor. So what we are going to do is to be completely neutral toward the impact factor. We are going to change the status of the peer community association to include some paragraph about the impact factor. And what we are going to do, so it will be done in December. We will say that we will probably have an impact factor, okay, because the Web of Science or Easy Web of Science, or I don't know who is going to give us an impact factor, but we will not communicate on the impact factor, and we will not change anything to the editorial policy of PCI and of peer community journal based on the impact factor. So this will be written in the statutes of the association to have a strong commitment in this direction. So probably peer community journal will have a good impact factor. We don't know, but let's say it has a good impact factor. It will be good for the authors. And if it does not have a good impact factor, then the authors, they will have an advantage to go to the peer community friendly journals and not to the peer community journal. And this is not a problem for us. We are not selling anything. We don't want a peer community journal to be the miracle solution for the future. We just want PCI to work. And if it can work because of the peer community of the PCI friendly journals, then it's okay.
Yeah,
but I perfectly understand your point. We try to innovate, to make something new.
But it's just like this gravitational pull.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's made for all the right reasons, but it's just like this pull and like trying to keep away from it.
Yeah. And we are not alone like that. For instance, if you talk to the editor-in-chief of eLife, he will say exactly the same thing. If you talk to the guys from the HHMI with Bodo Stern, etc., with the publish, review, curate system, he will say exactly the same. We all know that there are these obstacles, and we have to cross this valley, and this is very difficult.
Yeah. I have more questions, of course, but I don't want to dominate. So, Aurea, do you want to? I can come back.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I think there is no other hand raised for the moment. So if you want to continue, there is no problem.
I don't want to dominate. So everybody just raise your hands if you want.
Okay, so Alexander. Yes.
Alexander, okay.
Okay, I have lots of questions too, but actually my questions are more of a practical character, and I have already asked some of them to you, but it would be great to perhaps recap the answers, and perhaps the vision has changed. So for me, perhaps one of the most interesting things in the peer community is this recommender system, right? Because if we look at the peer review, and especially open peer review from a practical way, you will face the need to somehow engage reviewers into reviewing, right? So that's a huge problem. And I think that it is very effectively organized in peer community and this system of recommenders is what perhaps OPTIMA will need, perhaps in an adjusted way, but still. So Thomas, may I ask you to perhaps elaborate more on this, and especially how you select the recommenders, and especially the early stages when peer community was only developing, how you gathered all these nice people to act as actually volunteers, as far as I understand.
Yeah, so the work of the recommenders is quite different from the work of the reviewers. They are playing the role of associate editors. They can be reviewers for other articles, for sure, but most reviewers are not recommenders at PCI. So if the question is how can we motivate reviewers to review, it's a bit different problem. Okay, it's a big problem, a big issue. Okay, but it's not exactly the same as how we attract recommenders to become recommenders. But anyway, so what we did with peer community in evolutionary biology and peer community in ecology, the two first PCIs, is that we were part of these fields. Okay, so the founders of PCI, Denis Bourguet, Benoît Facon, and myself, we were working in evolutionary biology, so we knew the people. Okay, we knew a lot of people, and the University of Montpellier, where we know a lot of people, is a very important university in ecology and evolution. So it was quite easy to contact some very big people, okay, big scientists in this domain, and we did contact them and explained our plan, and they were quite interested at the beginning by the plan and by the fact that they wanted to change the system, etc. As a matter of fact, I think that in ecology and evolutionary biology, the scientists are quite progressive. Okay, they want to change the system. It is true. It's not like in medicine. It's a bit different. So it was easier probably to work in ecology and evolutionary biology at the beginning. And we told maybe 10 people that were big names in ecology and evolution to attract themselves, to contact themselves, something like 20 to 50 people, each of them. Okay, and this is what we did, and this is what they did. And they did contact many people with very large networks. So very rapidly, we ended up with more than 100 recommenders for PCI evolutionary biology. It was very fast. And for PCI ecology, in 2 months, we already got 200 recommenders working for PCI ecology. So this was very fast. But when we started the other PCIs, for instance, peer community in archaeology or peer community in genomics, etc., it was more difficult. It was more difficult probably because...
Sorry, there is someone that should turn off the microphone.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you.
So for genomics and the other PCIs, it was more difficult. So we don't know really why it was more difficult. Maybe because the community is not so keen to change everything. Okay. Maybe because in these disciplines they are more used to use quantitative metrics, impact factor, etc., and they are less shocked by this. I don't know, and maybe it is also a problem of the quantity of energy you want to invest in the system. At the beginning, Denis Bourguet and myself and we invested a lot of energy in the creation of PCI evolutionary biology, and this may be the big difference also with the other PCIs. So it can be difficult, but so in summary, it's not so difficult to attract recommenders. They are quite motivated to do something new and something else. Also, the workload for the recommenders is very low. Okay, because you have seen we have received 500 submissions and we are 1,700 recommenders. So the mean workload is 0 article per recommender. So it's a very low workload. It's an exciting initiative. It's strange. It's a bit curious. So they are motivated to do so. We have more. It's easier to get recommenders and reviewers than to get submissions. Okay, we have more difficulties in getting submissions and authors going to PCI than getting reviewers or recommenders working for PCI, which is a paradox, but we understand it. And
thanks. Any other questions, colleagues?
Maybe I can. I was just wondering about the how friendly the relationships with the friendly journals are, and and how formal. Like, so are they all? So do any of the journals say, if it's PCI recommended, we take it, as long as it's in scope for our journal, or do they all say, no, we'll only look at the reviews, and if we think they're okay, then we won't demand another process?
So it depends on the category of the PCI friendly. journal. So the first category, the top level, they will accept the article, whatever the evaluation by PCI, as soon it is recommended. Okay, and there are 6 journals like that, so they are not big journals. Okay, they are small journals of scientific societies, most of them in ecology and in zoology, but they are very motivated to do so, because they think it's really at their advantage. And for the second category, well, they just give you a fast answer. That can be to review again, not to review, or not to accept the article. So there are many journals in this category. And in fact, for most of these journals, we have very friendly relationship, because the editors-in-chief of these journals, they are part of the recommenders of the PCIs. For instance, the co-founder of PCI Ecology, Tim Coulson, is the editor-in-chief of Ecology Letters. The editor-in-chief of Journal of Evolutionary Biology is a recommender of PCI Evolbiol, etc., etc. And for instance, the journal Oikos, which is a good journal in ecology, the editor-in-chief is Dries Bonte, he is a recommender also. And what he does is that he just look at the PCI website, the PCI Ecology website, and each time he sees a recommendation, he just goes to the paper very fast and very efficiently takes the papers like that. So he makes his market using PCI. So, okay, again, it's not the goal of PCI, but it's a way to okay, temporary way to solve the solution, etc. Yep.
Cool. And do you see, like, so if it, at the moment, and it seems that the journal is kind of the acknowledgement of that, we still need, unless it's got a journal stamp on it, this is an article worth reading or worth indexing or so, then it still doesn't really exist. But I guess the goal is just that if there's a preprint and it has a badge that says PCI recommended, then that should be enough. Yeah. And then you should have like filtering services to kind of recommend it to certain people, but it doesn't need this extra badge of prestige that comes with the journal. Yeah. And how to get to that. And were you in the meeting that kicked off the Notify project? So it was in Paris.
I was not in the kickoff, but
there was a meeting that Core arranged in Paris with Laurent Romery hosted it.
I was not there.
Okay, but so also at that meeting, like I was there, and there were some people from Knowledge Futures Group as well, and ASAP Bio, and so another kind of branch off of that in a similar direction was the DocMap project, and I wonder if you've heard of that.
Yeah,
because,
sure.
So I think that they're doing similar things to the Notify project, and I think we talked about kind of doing something together in future, but that seems to be the kind of the way forward, is that if you can surface this information better and make it more meaningful and recognizable, then maybe you wouldn't need the journal in the end.
Yeah.
And also ASAP Bio is they have a taxonomy working group at the moment, which is looking at a taxonomy for peer review on preprints, which would, like, if there's like a formalized language around this, then maybe it becomes a lot more recognizable for people. I just wonder how involved you are with those two things. Maybe we can
we have been also invited to participate to DocMap, and we of course know very well the people from ASAP Bio and also the guys from Knowledge Future, etc. So we know all these questions about surfacing all the events that can be linked to preprints, articles in open archives, etc. But we have the feeling that this group is less willing to get rid of the journals. Okay, we have the feeling that they want to organize the system in order to be more efficient, to be more, to give more weight to the preprints, etc. But they still want to have this final layer of a version of record coming from the publication in a journal. And I remember that we have been, it was last year, I think, we have been asked by the group of DocMap if we were at PCI in competition with the bodies that can give a version of record to a journal, and if we would like to give a version of record of to articles. And it was a friendly question, but not so friendly, in fact. And they wanted PCI really to be positioned in this system. So where are we compared to this problem of version of record? Do we think really that a preprint recommended by a PCI is a final product, or can it still be published somewhere else, etc.? And so we have the feeling, to conclude, that this group is maybe less motivated compared, for instance, to the group of COAR that looks like more motivated to consider the preprint with a stamp as a final product, which may not be the case with DocMap. I'm not completely sure, but we have this kind of feeling.
That's interesting. Like, I definitely don't see that as the case from the core people, but the fact that the publishers, there are some very traditional, well, like there are, I think publishers were a lot more involved in DocMaps and also in this peer review taxonomy.
Yep.
Maybe it drags it in that direction. That's interesting, but I would definitely say we should continue that conversation. And then could you explain a bit more about what you're doing in the framework of the Notify project, like how that's going and where you are?
Yeah. So the basic idea of QRNotify is to make some standards or technical standards of notification between services and the open archives, the institutional open archives. And these notifications would be automatic, and they would notify information like, I am an author, I want a peer review, I am a peer review service, and I made a peer review on this article, and I am an endorsement service, and I endorsed this article, etc. This kind of information that would circulate between the services and the open archives. And we are a service providing peer reviews and providing endorsement. So what we want to be able to do is to send notifications to the open archives in which are deposited the articles that we evaluate and that we peer review and that we endorse, to clearly to alert the readers of these open archives that there are some peer reviews or there are some endorsements on the articles that are in these open archives. And we have been the pilot project of QRNotify. So we have developed a technical way from the websites of PCI to send these automatic notifications to so currently it's just like a ghost server, okay, that would receive some notifications. And so from our side, it works. So we are able to send these notifications each time we produce recommendations, okay? Each time we accept articles. So this notifications are sent, the right information is contained by the notifications. And so this is where we are. We are just able to send this kind of notifications with the right content. And what we are doing now, in parallel, that we were working with HAL, which is the French open repository, the French institutional open repository. And HAL, they are doing the same in the QRNotify project from their point of view. So they have an inbox to receive the notifications sent by services. And they have outboxes to send notification. For instance, an author wants an evaluation of its preprint. So they send the notification to peer review service. So they have already built something in their infrastructure in HAL. And now we have to connect both infrastructures to send the notification to each other. And this will be done very, very soon because we are working with the same developers. So the developers who worked with PCI are the same developers who worked with HAL. So it will be quite easy for them to make the connection and to link the notifications to the two inboxes and the two outboxes. So I think that this will be done in the following weeks and months, and probably in, I don't know, in 2 months it will be okay. So we will be able to communicate correctly between HAL and PCI. So we can imagine that in HAL, instead of having the categories article, preprint, this kind of thing, there will be categories that will be something like endorsed article or endorsed preprint. And this will be, there will be a change of a status probably, depending on the notifications that HAL will receive, for instance, from PCI. So this is where we are currently. We have 2 separate entities and we want to connect them.
Great, thank you.
And an important thing is that the notification system is so simple. Okay, it's a real minimum development to get it working. It works very well and it's very, very simple. So that I think that any open archives could use it and any service could use it very simply also. And this, I think this is the goal, it's to have something universal, okay?
That's very interesting. I see Alexander have a question.
Yes, I'm trying to get as much as possible information today. So, okay, we now go again to this more technical questions and fields. So, as far as I understand, okay, now I see that per community in the PCI has more international, let's say, community, right? But from my point of view, it was mostly, let's say, focused, oriented towards France, right? At the beginning, at least, right? So
yeah, it was not focused toward France. It was originating from France.
Exactly.
So most of the people were French, but it was accidents. Okay, it was not the goal. Huh?
Okay, so my question is, it's very technical, but perhaps you can share this information. If not, it's completely okay. If possible, what is average number of users on the PCI website, like the general number of users, like daily? I mean, just to approximate it for us to have some benchmark or something like this. Just to understand the scale.
So I have some numbers. I'm just looking at my numbers if it contains this information, but I think it doesn't. So for the general PCI website that contains the information, the text, okay, and that do not contain the recommendations and the peer review, we have something like 100 users per day, okay? 100. So it's 100 users per day. So for the general website containing the information, but okay. for each PCI communities, in fact, I don't know. I have monthly statistics, so it's thousands of users per month. Okay, but per day I have no idea. And the thing that I know also is the use of the DOI, the resolution of the DOIs of the recommendations, and I can give you the statistics. I just have to find it. If you let me 1 minute, I should be able to find that. Activity report. So it's the number of DOI resolution successes. So I can share my screen so you will see that. So for instance, this means that in September 2021, there have been 6,000 resolution of DOI concerning our recommendations. Okay, so it means that using the DOI, because you can have access to the recommendations with another way, you don't have to use the DOI to see a recommendation, but just the use of the DOI corresponded to 6,000 access to the recommendations, which is a lot because we have something like 260 recommendations in total. Okay, so it makes a lot of access to the recommendations, and it's not just me. Okay, this the 6,000 accesses to the DOI. It's just, it's not me. So this gives you so it's endpoint of 6,000, but you can see the dynamics between 2018 and today. So there is a clear increase. Apparently, it works.
Many thanks for the statistics. And actually, I really see this, exponential.
Yeah.
I hope so. Growth, like,
Maybe.
Yeah, so good luck with this. And also, I have another question regarding the research assessment system. So, are these recommendations and open reviews on the PCI somehow included in evaluating the researchers? For instance, in France, so because now many people around Europe, policymakers, researchers, activists, and many other groups are trying to reform the research assessment system to include some, like not only grants and papers, right, but also other activities which are available, and researchers are not recognized for this. So perhaps there are some initiatives in this regard.
So is it a question or?
Yeah, question. So if activity of researchers on the PCI are somehow included in their evaluation, for instance, in France, or perhaps in some specific universities in France.
Maybe we should provide some more context, because we are writing a national open science action plan for Ukraine, and what we included that open peer review reports are counted as research output in research assessment exercises, and we were wondering whether you have something like that in your institution.
Yes, so in France it's moving very fast currently. So there is a, so I already told that to Irina, so she knows that, but there is a national priority in France, which comes from the government, so toward open science. Okay, so they want to develop open science a lot, and they know that if they want to develop open science, they have to change the way science is assessed and science is evaluated, because there is a it's not so easy to transfer the product of the open science to the normal evaluation of science. So the major institutes of research in France are thinking hard to make it compatible between the current evaluation process and the open science products. So, for instance, the CNRS is working currently very hard with all the presidents of all the sections of the committees, of the national committees of evaluation. They are thinking together about that. And for instance, at INRAE, so my Institute of Research in Agronomy Environment, which is a big institute with 10,000 people working in it, they are also thinking deeply about that. And we have been to a seminar a month ago to think about how to evaluate open science when we evaluate researchers, careers, etc., etc. And they want to change very drastically the way evaluation are made currently to take into account these open science products. So probably there will be changes in 1 year or maybe 2 years, but after that, the change will be effective, I think. And so this is true for the CNRS, for INRAE, and this is also true for the national funding agency, the ANR in France. They are thinking about this, so to take more into account the preprints, to take into account pre-registrations, to take into account the deposit of data, of scripts, etc., etc. So all of this is going to change very soon, but it's not an easy task. So so I'm not sure if it will be successful or not. But yeah.
I may just a little bit expand my question. So your personal point of view, what are the main, like 3, perhaps 5 topics, maybe 1, which are not currently included into the research evaluation system, which should be there? Your personal point of view, what is lacking at the moment?
But I think that the main point is that all the evaluation committees for the project, for the grants, the careers, the recruitment, all of them should avoid using quantitative evaluation criteria and should focus on the quality. And for that, there is a way to do that. It's to forbid the candidate to give extensive list of publications, okay? And just to ask this candidate to give maybe 3 to 5 articles as reference, and to explain why they give these 5 articles and not other articles, and to explain what is their scientific process that led to the publication of this article. So this could be, for instance, for the recruitment or for the evaluation of a career. And it could be also very close for the evaluation of a project. And it's not so you forbid the candidate to give this extensive list of all the production. So you don't have this with the 100 papers, blah, 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 blah. You forgive them to give you impact factors and H index. This is forbidden. Okay, this is a simple solution, and because I am a simple guy. So, and you just focus on 3 to 5 articles, and you ask the candidates, why do you think these 5 articles are interesting for the application? And if you do so, you have the obligation to do something qualitative. You have to explain qualitatively why these 4 productions are adequate in the thing that you are evaluating, and you allow the possibility, you allow the evaluator to read your production, because there are only 3 to 5 papers, so they can read them, okay, and they should read them. And if they don't read them, they should quit the evaluation committee, okay. This is as simple as that. And I think that this should be the solution. So we should have evaluation committees that are specialists of the domain, okay, so that they can read and understand the papers. And we should limit a lot the number of productions. And this is already the case, for instance, in the ERC procedure, the new one. It's like that. So you should just give a very limited number of articles that you want to put in your project. And it started to be like that in INRAE, CNRS, etc., etc. And I think this is one of the solutions.
And I think Liège University does that already, and Ghent is talking about that. So it's also happening in the universities.
Yeah.
Actually, it sounds very good, actually, and we sure should lead to better science, and not like quantitative, not a great list or big list of, let's say, average work, but shorter list of very good work. But from my point of view, this requires a very strong research culture in a specific environment. And let's say, so we have, in this case, the decision makers are the evaluators, and they need to be holders of high level of academic and research integrity, for instance. So yes, but that's perhaps the key thing to shape the research integrity culture. Many thanks for this. Any other questions, colleagues?
Maybe someone have a question even in Ukrainian. Alexander will translate the question.
Я так, звичайно, шановні колеги, якщо комусь простіше задати питання українською, будь ласка, задавайте. Ми з Іриною будемо раді із Павлом перекласти нашим колегам. Тобто, якщо вам простіше українською, будь ласка, задавайте без жодних питань. Навпаки, задавайте питання, так? Ми перекладемо.
Або якщо якісь коментарі.
Так, ми можемо перекласти. Та, будь ласка, будь-які питання, коментарі, будемо раді. Looks like everything is understandable, so.
Okay, so maybe we could now have some input from Tony or Stefan about the session we have yesterday morning.
Stefan, if I may, Okay, I have made a very simple table just to show it.
Go ahead.
Perhaps you have already made this. So just give a little bit context for this, Thomas. Actually, we are building this open peer review platform for Ukraine, for Ukrainian academic conferences focused on early career researchers, because it's also, as Rhea said and Irina said, an educational product, let's say. And we discussed 3 different types of workflows for open peer review. The initial idea was to create, let's say, strong open peer review workflow, middle and medium, and let's say weak. But later on we discussed this and came up with the approach of 3 workflows which differ a little bit. So let me just share my screen and show general differences. And I ask Stefan to correct me if I'm wrong or if I misunderstood something. So can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So okay, so this is a draft, and so we came up with the idea of 3 workflows, right? Let's discuss the first one. So in the first workflow, person submits a paper. We have a unified concept abstract paper. We just merged it for now to make it simple. So anything person submits is a paper, right? So it becomes immediately available as a preprint. After that, all identities of author, reviewer, everyone is mandatory, of commenters and everyone. All positive and negative reviews are published immediately, right? So all the process is open from the beginning to the final decision, right? The second workflow is a little bit different because we don't publish the papers openly before they, and only if they are accepted. So we are experimenting here, and all identities are open, but only if, let's say, we only publish everything if the paper is accepted, right? If not, we just don't publish it. And the second workflow is the same as the first one. So we publish everything, but reviewers can choose if they want their identities to be revealed. So that is our model at the moment, right? So and we would like to continue the discussion and perhaps get some comments from your side and from other participants of this webinar. Stefan, could you please confirm that I'm explained it in the right way? Yes?
I'm not entirely sure about workflow too, how that would work, because that would, if we don't make the submission, the paper, whatever, whether an abstract or a manuscript, if we don't make that public, then it's almost it's by definition a closed review, right? So that should still have to be public in some ways.
Okay,
or not.
so we can make like this, right?
Very fast, very efficient. Like it.
Okay, better in Word document. Okay, so now it's better. I see. Perfect. So then only reviews.
I think. I mean. I think initially the idea was, but this would be. But I think that the results of our discussion yesterday was that if we don't have this step where the manuscript or the paper is actually made available, it hardly deserves to be called open, right? So that was my worry. That's the issue. So I don't know.
Okay, so that's very good. And then we just publish reviews only if the paper is accepted. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely had one workflow where reviews are published upon acceptance, and we had one where actually the reviewers can choose, right, where they actually get a say in this. I want my reviews to be published. So actually there'd be three stages, right? Reviews are published with names. Reviews are published without names, they're not published, as far as I understand, right? So we have these three different ways of organizing this last step. And I think the important issue is for us to decide whether that's the extent to which that is actually optional for reviewers, to the extent to which reviewers can actually simply say, well, I don't want that. Can we, for how much we can actually, or how much conferences would actually be able to enforce that?
Mm-hmm. Actually, the idea was because, to be honest, open peer review is something very new to Ukraine, like in Eastern Europe in general. So, yeah, and that is why we are not sure if we propose one way, it would be easier to implement. So we would like to experiment and really think what people like the most, let's say, right? So then we can try to continue working. So.
I mean, but that's an issue, right? Because we also have this idea of collecting data about the process itself, right? About how do certain design choices actually affect the peer review process and the quality. And there, I mean, I think we should be careful not to make this into not to confuse what the question is, because we actually want to find out. We actually want to find out what the workflow, what these choices bring to the process. We don't want to find out whether people accept it necessarily, right? That would be different, because then you'd actually have to say, well, we have these various options. As I tried to explain yesterday, open peer review is many different things that can be combined in many different ways. And if you want to find out what is most accepted in a certain context, then actually what you'd have to do is you'd have to give people all of these choices in some sense, or the conferences, maybe not the participants, but the conference organizers, all of these choices. And they would then have to decide, well, and basically pick what they would put into the workflow that they want to implement. But I think that's not exactly what we're doing. I think with our approach, we actually, we do have, it seems a bit more risky, to be honest, because it does that. We do seem to be risking that the conference says, well, okay, you know what, workflow one, that's very strong. We simply don't want that. So that's actually a risk that I see there. But I think it's one that at least given our aims is one that we have to take. So we don't want to make it too optional, even though that's what we said, what we recommended. I know that I think that's what we recommended in the report. So maybe that's something. Maybe that's something that needs more discussion. Actually, which of the two? I think for me it's fairly clear that we don't want to be we'd want to be rather prescriptive, actually, at least on some level. I don't know what others think.
So I'm not sure that I did understand what was the goal, if it was to suggest different workflows and to know which one would be more successful, or if you want to suggest different workflow to see the effect of the differences on the quality of peer review, on the quality of the process, etc. It's not very clear.
To be honest, we are aiming at both tasks, to be honest, because actually, yes, because okay, the main idea, of course, is to establish the system and the community around the system, which produces quality peer review, right? But opening up the peer review process is something completely new to Ukraine and Eastern Europe in general. So we try to experiment and to find the best balance between openness and, let's say, attitudes of people. So let me give some more context, because we will select at least 10 conferences in different Ukrainian universities. And we will somehow in different areas, from technical sciences to medical and everything. And we will offer them one of these three workflows. And we will try to provide them with support in this. So we will help them to organize this workflow and put their submissions through this workflows, right? So in this regard, we want to make this, let's say, experiment to just understand what better suits here and what leads to better results. So that's the idea in general. But as I said, it's a draft version, and we are very open to comments and suggestions, if any.
Yeah, so it's very a classic comment that I can do. But if you decide to publish immediately the negative reviews, you will have a problem of acceptance by the authors, okay? Because it's difficult to be publicly negatively criticized and judged by some reviewers. And for instance, even eLife, when they decided to publish all their peer reviews on their articles, they suddenly realized that it was not so easy to do for the negative peer reviews, and they had to reconsider their option. And now they ask the permission to the authors if they want to publish or not the peer reviews, because it didn't work. There were too few authors willing to submit to eLife, knowing that the negative reviews could be published together with their preprints. So it had a very strong negative impact on the quantity of submissions they received initially, and they had to change their way to work.
I mean, we discussed this. I mean, making it optional, well, that would certainly be an option. To simply ask authors permission, but that again runs the risk of people simply refusing that. So effectively, that would close off that part of the process. Another option that I see here that I think did not really, because Alexander very nicely divided these 2 points, positive and negative reviews. I think that was also a point of discussion yesterday, whether there's a way to treat positive and negative reviews differently than system. And quite simply, that would be an option to publish positive reviews by default and not publish negative reviews by default, but ask for permission, for instance, only with respect to negative reviews. The question is the extent to which that can still be called open peer review if you simply quite arbitrarily decide not to publish certain reviews. Because actually we also felt that, especially in terms of, I mean, this is an Erasmus Plus project, so in terms of training early career researchers, it would actually be it would certainly be helpful, maybe not for the authors of these negatively reviewed or possibly rejected papers, but for others as a learning opportunity. Of course, that if you want that, if that is the goal, then you should. Then the negative reviews should also be published with all the consequences that Thomas just described. I think I see that's a very real problem, that it might simply slow down the pipeline. So maybe less submissions or people opting out. But that's a question, right? Do we give the opportunity to opt out of this particular approach, and when? Because as you said, and I completely agree with that point. If people don't have an opportunity to opt out, they will opt out at the beginning, like right at the beginning, by not opting in, by not submitting. And I think that's a very real issue that unfortunately I don't think. To me, it looks very much like a dilemma. It's not really. I don't suppose we're going to find a solution that makes everyone happy, and I don't suppose that we're going to find the one perfect solution. It doesn't look like this at this point, to me at least. Maybe others see that differently. I'd be very interested to hear that if so.
And just another comment, if I want to put PCI in this table, it would be a very, very weak, extremely weak open review workflow. And probably it's not open peer review in the sense of your definitions, but it would be like the preprint is available immediately, okay? The open identities is not mandatory for the reviewers. And the reviews are published only if and after the paper is accepted. So it's a very weak workflow number 4.
Well, what I take from that is maybe we need an additional workflow even. This might actually be something to consider. I mean, yeah.
Okay, but thanks a lot for this comment. Well, I mean, why not?
But I mean, it's interesting, right? Because it seems that people would have authors in this case presumably have less of a problem with their work being openly available without peer reviews, as in this 4th model, but it's markedly different for the potential criticism that you get with a review. So I think maybe we shouldn't be talking so much about the preprints, but rather about the reviews. I think the preprints are not the problem, maybe for any of these workflows, but rather the reviews. If and when and under what circumstances, optional or not. And
yeah, just about this, about the fact that we should not discuss the preprint if it is available immediately or not. So at PCI, we had a problem because we wanted to include the possibility of double-blind peer review. Okay, and it is difficult to do so if you have a preprint in a preprint server, in a public preprint server, because the authors, they cannot be anonymous. So we decided to let the possibility to the authors to make these double-blind submissions, but the article should be posted in a private server instead of a preprint server, so that the submission can be anonymous and the peer reviews can be also anonymous. It doesn't depend on that. And at the end, if the paper is accepted, we publish everything, including the article in the preprint server and the peer reviews and the editorial decisions, etc. So it allows to make this double-blind peer review, which is a good concept.
Yeah, agreed. I think there should definitely be an option, at least for some. I think the agreement yesterday also was that at least for some fields, you wouldn't want to take away this double-blind peer review process from them. And since I am from one of these fields, I think I definitely agree that we should at least talk about it. But I see what you just described with PCI, this seems like a viable strategy, but I see the problem definitely for this system, and I think this was also discussed yesterday, that attaching a license, any sort of license to a submission involves putting the name there, more or less. So it's difficult. Otherwise, you definitely need to find a way to solve this if you want to offer a double-blind peer review. If we decide we don't want that, and we definitely want to make manuscripts open, I don't think we have that problem, but it's definitely a decision that we need to make. And if we decide to offer double-blind peer review or similar, then I think we'll need a workaround, to say the least. And it would probably this would also probably be a 4th workflow. I don't see that going into any of these, not really fitting into any of these of the 3 workflows that we have defined, to be honest.
Okay.
Maybe that's wrong.
We also had a question about license yesterday, and I just randomly opened one of your recommendations, and it was CC BY ND. Is it the default license, or like how do you handle that? Do you leave it up to reviewers, recommenders, or do you?
You ask me for PCI?
Yeah, for PCI.
So yeah, we decided to make this CC BY ND because so maybe it was not very well thought, because we were not expert in licensing at the beginning, and we thought that evaluations, for the evaluations, there was no real problem of of making some limitations of the use. So a CC BY license was not completely, absolutely necessary for evaluations. And we thought that at the same time, it was very important that any use of the evaluations should be complete. Okay, so you could not extract some piece of an evaluation. You could not transform the wording of some evaluations, etc. Because it's important that if a reviewer say, I think that this is good, that it is not transforming, I think that it is not good, for instance, or, okay. It was quite naive, but we had this feeling that we shouldn't be able to change anything to the evaluation if we reuse it. So we decided to make this CC BY ND. And again, we thought that about the problem of openness, it's not like articles, okay? They are evaluations, so this is not the same kind of problem. But this may change because again, we are not expert in this licensing, and we may be wrong. In fact, we may accept that with no problem.
Because I think it limits text and data mining, and you never know how those reviews will be used in a couple of years' time. Maybe if some AI tools will be applied.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, I have already heard that this may limit the use of data mining and of searching, automatic searching. But I don't really see why it would limit that. So maybe you can explain me, because I don't understand why CC BY ND would limit the possibility of making some data mining.
Because I think they have to extract, they have to make a copy, keep that copy somewhere in the database, and extract some parts. And because you have no derivatives, you're not allowing, like you said, breaking the text or dividing sentences.
Yeah. Yeah, but this doesn't impede the mining, it impedes the publication of the extract.
But it's part of the algorithm, I think. That's how, because they'll be using some keywords, or I don't know, phrases that they'll be applying to your corpora, and they will need to extract sentences that include those keywords. Again, I'm explaining it very simple. We have much better experts here, I guess, but that's how I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have open metadata for so they are in CC BY, the metadata of the recommendations and the peer reviews. But yes, indeed, the text are in CC BY ND. Okay, well, we have to think more about that. And okay, and are we completely sure that the data mining is incompatible with this license? Because I understand
that's what I always hear from legal experts. Let's say if you want to enable text and data mining, then it should be CC BY.
Okay. Okay, we will see that and may change that.
Yes, Alexander.
Yes, I just okay. So thanks for all the comments, but actually, I just want to throw in another idea regarding the perhaps strong open peer review. Strong, yeah. Because I see now that at, let's say, Open Research Europe and at F1000 and alike platforms like Wellcome Trust, they really implement this very open peer review process. And if you look through the papers, you often see very, let's say, critical, to say the least, reviews and critical comments. And but this is still viable, you know. So what are your thoughts about this? And perhaps that is the way we should move, you know. So just trying to open and then look what will happen. What are your thoughts? So open everything extremely and see what happens, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely try that. And but do we have some feedback from eLife? They give the option to the author to publish a negative reviews. So is there any authors that actually are accepting this option? Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has this information, but from what the editor-in-chief told us, it looks like very few people just accept this system and go through this submission process very easily. But so maybe the client of eLife are not exactly the same than the client of Open Research Europe or Wellcome Trust Research. Or it's not exactly made for the same kind of articles. Maybe the ones using eLife are more ambitious and they don't want to see any negative, even slightly negative criticism on their article because they want to publish in Nature, Science, eLife plus Biology, etc. So maybe this is the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I for one am all for doing social experiments. Just as long as we make sure that we know our variables, that we know what we're actually looking into, and that we understand what potentially affects these choices, right? So what potentially affects whether authors want negative reviews to be published or not, whether it's the research field, for instance, that makes a difference, or the whatever academic age, any variables that you can think of. But then I think to some extent there's no way around this experimental approach. I think to an extent it'll always be an experiment because it's introducing something very new to an environment which may or may not be ready, and we actually have no way of knowing until we try, I think. This is probably not extremely helpful, but I think we should keep that in mind.
Yep. I know that Thomas Guillemaud have to leave soon, so maybe we can have 2 questions again from Alexander and Irina, and then yeah. If you have time, Thomas, you need to leave like in
just offer Irina to ask a question because I have asked many.
No, it was just a comment, and it's okay. Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, so just a quick question to Thomas. At the moment, many platforms are introducing various types of articles, let's say, right? Not just an article, but shorter articles, reports, data articles, and everything. So some specific formats. Are you considering something similar in the PCI? And if yes, what is the approach?
So we are theoretically offering something quite similar in PCI because there are many different kinds of articles that can be submitted. But as a matter of fact, we received only one type of article. So we didn't get any data papers, for instance. We did not receive very specific format, but what we offer as a possibility is to submit a registered report, and this has been quite successful. So we have received a number of registered reports in PCI ecology and PCI evolutionary biology. And now we have created this PCI registered report, so evaluating only registered reports. And this is mainly in experimental psychology and in some aspects of medicine and health science. And this is quite successful. So we receive many registered reports at PCI registered reports. But we also accept the submission of reviews, of comments, of replies to articles, etc. And this works. But this kind of data papers or micro publication, we did not receive any. And I have to admit that we are not very fond of data papers, for instance, because we think it's not something that are easy to evaluate, and it's not something that is it's so interesting, because the evaluators, the recommenders, they have to be interested to handle the evaluation of papers. So there is a subjective part in this evaluation process, and it's quite difficult to have this subjective part with a data paper. Okay, yes, it's not very well adapted to this subjective step, we think. So yeah, this is all that I can say.
Irina, you wanted to add something?
No, it's okay. Thanks.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Thomas, for this very useful and interesting session. I don't know, Alexander, if you want to continue a bit the session to discuss about the Optima project, or if you wanted to.
Actually, we can continue, so it would be great to also, but if there are comments, it would be great to continue like for like 10 minutes, perhaps 15, but if there are any. If not, it was very nice actually, and many thanks to Thomas for the time and the presentation. And
no, it was very interesting, and do not hesitate to contact me if you want to know anything else about PCI. I would be very pleased to answer, and also to discuss more about DocMap. No problem. I'm very interested in that also. And if you want to give us insight into the CC BY licensing, and yeah, it's also an interesting subject. So, and thank you for the invitation, Aurea and Alexander. It's very nice from you. So bye, thank you. And I'm sorry to leave because I have to.
Bye, Thomas. It was a pleasure to meet you again.
Thank you, Thomas.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, dear colleagues, we are now in our more internal group. So actually, I would perhaps ask all of you to make any comments you wish, but I already see that there are comments in the chat. 1 second. So from Marie Chernishenko, Marie, if you are able to, perhaps you can just read the comment, or perhaps, if not, I can read it for you. What should
I'll try.
Okay.
I mean, suppose I am a student and I do have to present some paper because my college requires so. But I won't. I don't want to present several papers per year. It's work. It's not required. So I choose a conference more or less randomly, because I have actually no or very little experience in this area at all. And I am shunted into or self-selected into some of the workflows. As I am a lazy student and prone to generalizing from one example, and I know this is this conference is a part of some bigger project, I will judge the project by this one workflow, and my scientific supervisor will look at the results and the proceedings, and he won't have very many students who will participate in these workflows. And so our experience, our seeding experience, if I can call it that, will define how we look at this whole superstructure for years to come.
But isn't that on the contrary, if we make those workflows available from the beginning, and of course, if a student is lazy, probably she wouldn't read all the description. But if we really make it clear the submission process, that's how we're gonna work, then maybe that lazy student wouldn't even go this way, because our workflow is definitely not for lazy students.
Exactly, and actually we will do. Mary, thanks for this comment, of course, and that's really. But actually, from my point of view, we need to start the fight, you know, and then we will see what will happen, and we will not know all the problems, and we will not know the level of uptake, let's say, before we start. But thanks for this comment, and as I said, if any of you has some further comments, further ideas, just approach me or the Optima project directly on the website. There are our contacts, perhaps on social media also. So we are very open to any suggestions and recommendations.
Yes, I agree, and I agree completely, but just I mean that you as organizers might underestimate the amount of work and amount of actually thinking which will be required of the lower level participants. And it's not that they won't be willing, it's that they're it's just something so new. It can be not вони можуть думати, що це взагалі не треба розуміти. Ну, тобто, ну так, я подався на конференцію, ну яка різниця? Sorry.
Okay, that's valid. But what we will definitely do, Mary, we will make short explainer videos in Ukrainian, very short, very simple, very friendly, for perhaps specifically for students, specifically for early career researchers, just explaining in very simple ways, the most simple way possible, what we want to achieve, how we're achieving this, and what is the difference. So that's our task. We will try to do it in a good way.
That was actually my comment, because I have experience as a reviewer, and I reviewed for MPDI, one of MPDI journals, and it was really a very good paper, and it was a case study. And I had maybe a minor comment, and then all the rest was good. And my review was, it's a good paper, except thank you, very useful, blah blah, and that's it. And then an editor came back to me and said, you know that we're also publishing reviews alongside with a paper, and we will publish your review, which is like 2 sentences, and it looks a bit strange. So go back and please write a proper, like, constructive review. And I was saying, well, I can, but it's really, and it was indeed a very good paper, but it was much more work for me as a reviewer as well. So that adds to what Mary said. It's students who are submitting papers. It's also for reviewers who are writing reviews.
Exactly. And also, we should definitely propose some, like, let's say, basic structure of a review. Irina is very. We have the same feeling, because perhaps not all of you know, we had an experiment which is called Open Review Hub in Ukraine, and we organized the workflows for 3 conferences via the service. And okay, a big part of reviews was very similar to Irina's, so like, very good paper. Ta-da! So yeah, okay. And we will sure you understand. So that's perhaps, but it's not a proper way to make reviews. But yes, and we should actually educate people, and that's a big part of our project. So yeah, that's one of the tasks. Okay, dear colleagues, if you have any other comments, you're welcome.
Sorry, you don't expect or how окей, вибачте, я сьогодні не дуже думаю. Наскільки ймовірним, на вашу думку, є те, що учасники, що будуть традиційні учасники цих конференцій, тобто традиційні вузи, які беруть у цьому участь, які зацікавлені, а решта просто вважатимуть це місцевим явищем, і будуть довго приглядатися, і зрештою, ну, це буде конференція для своїх.
Mary's question was about the uptake. Whom do we expect be part of this process, and how can we make sure that it's not a closed circle of people like us submitting papers and reviewing papers, but it's really we make sure that we reach out to broad audience and everyone like understands and participates. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I guess it also requires an institutional level work and explanation, and it also requires all this education we've been talking about. And I don't know how we can do all that at the same time, like launch it and also educate people. So I'm afraid, yeah, I'm afraid we have to admit that in the beginning it would be a small uptake and a group of committed people.
Exactly, but I remember this the uptake of PCI, which was and then whoosh. So I mean that's understandable, and there is no silver bullet for this. It's not like we have one nice solution, we push a button and everything is well. No, but what we can do, as I said, we will have to support at least 10 conferences in the project, and some of the conferences we will support are not the conferences which appeared yesterday. They have a nice history, such as International Youth Science Forum, Literis at Archibus and Lviv Polytechnic, which already has an audience, which already looks in the direction of open science, and perhaps uptake in this, like traditional conferences, might be bigger, but we don't know. And we just have to start, and then we will see what we can do with this.
But another problem that we are facing, which is like different from researchers in France or Austria, that our researchers are really overloaded with teaching, and if submissions will be in Ukrainian, then mostly Ukrainian researchers will be reviewing those papers, and I don't know whether they will have so much time to invest into this open peer review. Even those who would like to, they'll probably do this at night or over the weekend. And yeah, and that's why we want to push for this recognizing reviews as research output, etc., because we think that we need some more incentives. I don't believe that people, many our researchers would jump in, as Thomas was saying, with PCI, that paper looks interesting, let me review it.
We will do one step at a time and move in the direction, because if we have a nice direction, I think that even a small move there will be very good. But yes, we have lots of issues to work with, but we have a chance to a little bit push research culture in Ukraine into nice direction. So let's do this. Okay.
Maybe sorry, one more thing about branding. Maybe we shouldn't be stressing open peer review so much if some workflows are not so open in the end. Maybe we should be stressing like quality, integrity, etc. And maybe that's how we position this platform, that it's like open, fast, I don't know, transparent, free review process, and then open peer review is part of it, but we also we understand that not everything will be made open immediately.
I like this idea. I think this would save us also from more harsh criticism, perhaps, and it will be a bit less scary from the point of view of the novelty of it, or it will help to bridge a bit everything that we mean by open and all these initiatives that are just starting with different speeds at different levels. And perhaps, Alexander, I don't know, and other Ukrainian colleagues, this might allow a broader context that would open up future possibilities or opportunities for other initiatives.
Yeah, I'll second both Irina's and Natalia's last points, other points as well, but these I like very much. So I think the branding is hugely important, and I think we saw this already yesterday when talking about strong, medium, and weak open peer review, and then found that, well, weak is not open effectively, probably. So I think this is an excellent idea, and I think maybe we could actually invest some time into thinking about how this could be branded, both in terms of what's the message that we as a consortium want to get across. I think integrity is a very good message, or transparency. So these ideas are a very good message, but also in terms of, I mean, after all, branding is also about reaching a target audience. So we should also consider what's important to the target audience or target audiences in this respect, in terms of coming up with, I mean, I think aside from discussing the content of the workflow, with coming up with different brands, maybe different brands for each workflow, this would actually be something very, very helpful in terms of fostering acceptance. Refrain from, as we've had a similar experience at TU Graz, like when talking about RDM and when talking about open science. Initially, this was not very well received. Everybody said, well, this is just going to be extra work, isn't it? If I have to manage my data, but we found a different way of talking to people, and suddenly everybody was interested, much more people were interested, and maybe here this could be a similar approach, quite possibly. So I like that very much.
And I took this from PCI website because that's how they describe themselves: stimulating, open, free, independent, not exclusive, reliable. So maybe let's think about words we'll use for our description, and open peer review could be part of that, but it's not on the title. It's somewhere in the description, not to scare people or not to attract criticism that our approaches, not all our approaches are really super open.
No, I mean, anyway, if you think back about this research that Tony and also others have done, I mean, open peer review still seems to be a vague term because it can refer to so many different implementations and to so many different. If you look at the nuts and bolts, what's ultimately very different systems and very different approaches to peer review, and maybe calling all of these things open peer review might simply confuse people in the end. It might not do any good to our objectives, and it might not do any good to open science more generally, because people may get the wrong idea. Even maybe that's a consideration.
Nice points. Let's think about this. But actually, I feel that we are now a little bit further in the process of actually understanding what we will have to develop and deliver next summer, let's say. Okay. Please, if any other comments. Looks like no more comments, right? So then let me say thank Aurea and those Université Côte team organizing this very good webinar. And so this is closing webinar of the second part of webinars of OPTIMA project this year. And this video will be available on YouTube. So perhaps more people will have an opportunity to learn more about everything we have talked today, right? So we continue our work, and please follow our updates on social media. And if you have any suggestions, comments, or want to somehow participate in our project, please don't hesitate to contact us. Many thanks to all the participants, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you very
day.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. It's been excellent. Thank you, Alexander.